What's up, y'all? Remy TV here, and today we're going to be reacting to Vivek Ramaswamy's video on The Breakfast Club. And I want to see what he got to say. I've been hearing a lot about this guy. I've watched some clips about this guy. Brilliant dude. I like a lot about what he's saying. And I think he's actually waking a lot of people up. So let's react to this, man. Let's see what's up.
And we'll see where this takes us.
Does anybody who's not a white male really stand a chance of being a Republican? No,
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that there's.
Right off the bat, they go to the race baiting. There we go. The race question. There we go.
They don't seem like they're open to that kind of diversity.
I'll be honest with you. I traveled the country. I have not really experienced meaningful racism from grassroots conservative audiences for the last, several years that I've been, since I stepped down from my business career. That was a different world I was in. But for my book tours and everything else, and then now for this campaign, traveling the country, it's funny. That's the impression that you get from the media, meeting people from Iowa, Ohio, Michigan, New Hampshire.
Absolutely. That's the impression you get from the media. The media wants you to think that America is racist, and they want you, as a black person, they want you to 100% think with the color of your skin. They don't want you to think for yourself. I think the racism really comes from the media and the people that are telling me that the ideas that I have in my mind I have to first look at the color of my skin before I can make a decision for myself. I think that's racism.
I don't see that at all. In fact, I just see a hunger for substance, ideas, what's actually going to make the country better. I actually am very encouraged by that. And I think that more people should. I used to live here in New York as well. And I'm not saying this about you guys, but I remember for me, you get trapped in a bubble. When we get out of that bubble.
I'm going to South Carolina.
Well, perfect. Well, yeah, South Carolina. When did you grow up there?
My whole life. I didn't move to New York till 2006. So I understand.
2006. Yeah, but I actually think a lot of what I'm saying is specific to. I think
you can tell this dude is like super comfortable, very confident. Obviously, he was very successful in business before. But you can tell like he's just relaxed and cool and calm. For him to even show up to this show, you can tell that it takes a lot of balls.
The country is in a different place today even than it was in the 90s and 2000s. I grew up in Southwest Ohio in the 1990s. Very different environment than it is today. But anyway, I mean it as a good note. I don't think that there's some sort of racist obstacle in the mind of Republican primary voters. Actually, if you look at the Republican field, even some of those other people on that poll you were mentioning, Tim Scott, Nikki Haley,
yeah.
Go down the list. There's even others as well. Larry Elder, black man's running. I think we'll see who ends up succeeding. But whoever it is, I don't think it's going to be a racial bias that holds me back.
Why should people vote for you?
Yeah, so I'm somebody who is coming in as an outsider.
That's a good question.
System. And I think in the White House, when it comes to the White House, if we really want to reform a lot of the corruption in government, it is going to take an outsider to get that job done. I'm 37. I'm the first millennial ever to run for president as a Republican. And I think
Wow, 37 years old, running for president. I think just right there, that's a plus. Being young, successful. I think he understands a lot about what we're going through. We got guys that are running for president that are 82, 3, 4 years old. How old is Biden? Old as dirt. So 37, I think that's refreshing. And this dude, you could tell that he sounds ready to me. I don't know.
View on our generation of what's going on in the country, where we are all so hungry for a cause, for purpose and meaning and identity. But the things that used to give us that sense of purpose, faith, patriotism, family, hard work, these things are out. And that's why we latch on to fill in the blank. In conservative circles, a lot of us will point to wokeism, gender ideology, the climate cult, COVIDism. But you could feel...
It's crazy. He's dead right. Like, if you think about it, the things that we used to be proud about. We used to be proud of America, right? So for me, I'm an immigrant. I was born in a different country, came to America. We used to be proud of America. We used to be proud of the faith in God, having that faith in God, our families, being proud of the family you come from. Today, people are just pride. Think about pride, right? My gender. We didn't. Those are things that we didn't think about back in the day. But today, it's like this whole crazy focus on climate change and this whole crazy focus on gender ideology. So I like it. He's already speaking truth to me.
Blank with depression, anxiety, drug use, suicide. I think these are symptoms of a deeper hunger for purpose and meaning in our country. And so in some ways, I'm running as a member of my generation to say that we can fill that void with the things that actually give us real purpose. Revive.
All right, I think we're going to fast forward to where I think some of that heat started. And I think, the heat started right around here. Let's see.
This country. And I think the more we wake that up, actually, the voting age only became 18 in 1971 in the context of the Vietnam draft. So I just think reviving those ideas is going to be good for us.
A lot. So let's prove your point. Nick, our camera guy, do you know the three branches of the federal government?
Over 24, so it don't matter.
But I'm just saying, but nobody knows.
3 branches of government: legislative, executive, judicial. Paid attention a little bit.
There are 24. Red, do you know the 3 branches?
Executive.
Well, I got a test. I would like to see if you're willing to pass, because I believe in, just as you believe in civic engagement, I believe in changing the ideas of what political opponents should look like, what they should look like, our political candidates. Are you willing to take a test with me quickly? Because I just have a couple of questions for you.
I will, absolutely.
So
and the way this is opening up, I have a feeling I'm about to fail it, but that's good. Let's do it.
That's right, yeah.
Wow, she said that's right, yeah. Like, the way she just came in, you can already tell she got an agenda with what she's about to say. You can already tell. Let's see.
So just for clarity, I am an independent. I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. Cool. I think that's important for the premise of the argument, because I know you did a lot of debating at Harvard. I also want to make it clear these are the same questions that I asked liberal Democrat Marianne Williamson. So I want to make sure that we put that out there as well, just to kind of set the foundation.
I'm open to being humbled. Let's do this.
Okay, great. Let's go. So you mentioned, the pride of being an American and how important it is to have pride in this country. I'm also a veteran, by the way. For the United States Air Force. So when is it?
Shout out to her. She's a veteran. Respect.
That you voted for the first time?
I voted in 2020.
Okay, so you're how old again?
I'm 37 years old.
So for how many years you sat around and did not get involved at all in any civic engagement? Is that my understanding?
A long time is the answer. And actually, that's what I wrote this book about. I'm not holding myself out as some sort of model. I'm actually offering myself as a self-reflection of my journey as a citizen, to whom this country has given much, right? As an adult, when you have kids, it changes your perspectives. I'm very honest about that. Absolutely.
Okay, no problem. So let's go deeper into the self-reflection. So you've sat around and
you could just tell she's got a lot of like masculine energy. She's ready to pounce on a dude. She's ready to go to war right now. Why she got all that energy? What this dude do to you?
I'm being as respectful as I possibly can. Please don't take anything.
Sure.
And you don't even have to be. And you don't even have to be. So take it off and let's go.
So you've been sitting around in the country that my ancestors built for about 20 years. Your parents.
Here we go. In the country my ancestors built. Oh my God, man.
Over as immigrants brought you over. You made millions, according to your resume, off of this country, and you have absolutely not been involved in civics. 1, not voting, and 2, let me just ask, because I know you mentioned earlier you don't want to sit around at the debate and talk about accomplishments. Let's make the accomplishments pretty simple. In high school, were you ever a class president or take any leadership role? Because your opponent did, Chris Christie. He was the class president. So have you ever taken any leadership at all on anything, or just?
Can I just correct a couple facts?
What the hell that got to do with anything? Class president, high school. What does that have to do with running a country? What does that have to do? This dude's a very successful guy. He's ran billion-dollar companies, very successful companies. What does being the class president have to do with anything? What kind of question is that?
Things that are kind of important. My parents didn't bring me over to the country. I was born in
scratch
this
that off.
country, and I'm proud
No,
of that.
I know you were born here in Ohio.
Yeah.
Ohio.
You mentioned my
I'm
parents
saying your
brought me
parents
up.
were immigrants.
You said-
My apologies.
That's all right. You said your parents brought you over to this country. I thought I
My
would set
apologies.
that record straight.
I mean, they were immigrants, but let's
They
not
were
go down the
immigrants.
water
Oh,
hole.
no. We're not going to water. I just want to correct a couple facts. And then the other thing is,
You were born here in Ohio.
I was
correct?
born in Cincinnati, Ohio. That's right.
Right. So
Yeah.
you've been here your entire life. So the question
That's
is,
right.
did you take any leadership role in middle school, high school, class president?
I did,
I know
yeah.
you played tennis. What is it? Explain it to us.
Student council. But I think that this is.
Middle school? Did she just ask, did he have any leadership roles in middle school? So what you did in middle school is going to prepare you for what you're going to do as a president? Who is this lady? And what kind of questions are these? She sounds like she has an agenda to try to trap him in some, but she looks so far, the questions that she's asking, you sound dumb.
Yes, I have held leadership roles over my life, but those don't qualify me to do what I'm doing now.
Yeah,
That's
it kind of
just-
does.
Okay,
Well, it kind of does. Well, I'm giving the test. I'm the test
Okay,
administrator.
all right, there you go.
So it kind of does, because when you go from saying I want to go to the highest office,
And I'll tell you,
of the
I've led companies as well. Is the other leader?
Right,
The
well,
main leadership
right, but-
role I played is, and I want to talk about one early part of your premise that I also want to say.
And to that point, he said, I've ran companies. Think about it. Like, if you think about the politicians that just all of a sudden become president or all of a sudden become governor, like the majority of these people are career politicians. What have they done successfully before then? What, the most successful thing is just running a campaign, a successful campaign? This guy's telling you, I've ran companies. That means you have to know how to run a business, right? Make money. This dude like almost a billionaire. He's got to know what he's doing somehow, some way.
Bring it to the country point. The other point, you use the word sitting around. I'm not somebody who's saying I want the next generation, my kids' generation, to have more civic duties when they graduate from high school and college than I did when I did. That being said, I wasn't sitting around. I've developed medicines, 5 of which are FDA-approved products today, one of which is a life-saving therapy in kids, 20 of whom die by the age of 3 if they're not treated, 70% of whom now live lives of a normal duration. Another one for prostate cancer. So I don't apologize for making contributions. But
right. Well, I don't want you to filibuster that
No worries.
because
Just
that's
not
not the
sitting
question that I asked, and I don't consider.
Wait, she cuts him off because she doesn't like the answer that he's given. Because he's saying, I've developed medicine that's been able to help people with cancer. I've been able to develop medicine for kids, like 5 FDA approved medicines. That says something. That says that he wasn't just sitting around, but she doesn't like it, so she cuts him off. Anyways.
As a veteran, I'm talking about service. I'm not talking about what you
Civic
did for
service,
profit.
yeah.
I'm not talking about what you paid people to do with
Yeah.
your
So
company.
I've
I'm
not
not talking
served-
about
I've not
that
served the country
because that
in the way
means
you
nothing
have.
to me.
You do
What I'm
realize
talking,
she
what
hasn't
I
been
am
able to ask a question. She's been trying to
Go
ask
for
a
it,
question,
yeah.
and you've been talking over her.
I'm
and
all ears.
We gave you the platform to let you say.
I'm
all
what you
ears.
said.
I'm all ears.
she
No, I
hasn't-
was just
she
correcting a
hasn't
couple
had a chance
facts,
to ask
that's
a
all.
question yet. Every
Go
time
ahead,
she
Ted,
tries
ask
to
the
ask a
question.
question, you've been cutting her off. Go ahead.
I'm all ears.
So your question. So my question again is: you're trying to your goal is to raise the standard, and you're saying you want people to believe in country, you want people to have civic engagement. And sir, I just find it very telling that you haven't had any civic engagement at all, and haven't been at all. And when I say sit around, I don't mean you haven't done anything. I'm talking about in regards to service. Because one thing about political office, the same way that you want to change how people look at politics and look at this country, I want to change how people look at politicians. And when I see that someone hasn't did anything at all to be of service to mankind, to take a leadership role, it's not good enough to just be on city student council.
Wait a minute. Be of service to mankind. He just told you he just created medicines that have helped people.
Were you a leader? All of that applies. Have you been able to get anybody in the room at any time, from the high school gymnasium to Ohio, Republican leadership there, to now? Have you been able to get anybody in a room to believe in this vision? I don't agree with a lot of your vision statement, but I do know you've been going around having these discussions and getting everybody emotionally worked up to talk about vision and debate. But I want to get to the practical. You're trying to go from preschool to president of the United States. You're skipping over city council, county council, mayor, governor. You want to go straight to the top. So my question is this a PR? Is this from the PR, the perception of reality? Or can you point to any leadership where you've been able to get people to believe in what you're talking about that they're not paid to do on any of these vision statements that you have? If not, then to me it's a moot point, because you're holding a standard that you haven't met yourself.
Do you ever have that feeling of no?
To me, what it feels like is this is her coming out party. So I think a lot of people, especially you see it a lot in the media, they want to have hot takes. They want to say something that's going to be able to go viral. So I think in her mind, by her doing what she's doing, because I don't even know who she is. I know who Charlamagne is. I know who DJ Envy is, right? I think the third host of the show, she left the show maybe a few months ago. So maybe she's filling in for that vacant spot, and she feels like this is her coming out party, and that's why she's being so aggressive. Because what kind of questions are these that are very insulting to somebody like that? You know what I mean? I don't know. It just feels like she's trying to get them riled up to get a viral moment. I don't know.
That something is missing. You know you're meant for more, but not sure what to do and where to start.
So if you're only going to count government service, you're absolutely
No, not government
right.
service.
Okay.
Student council in the 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th. Were you a leader? Did you do anything to rally anybody? Did you fight for better lunch? I did in the 6th grade with Miss Harris. I'm not talking about government. I can go all the way back from the 5th grade every.
Come on, y'all. I mean, black people, we gotta do better. Come on. Seriously? Lunch? 8th grade? Seriously? This is a presidential candidate. What kind of...
Sir, because people who are in service to this country, if you're going to go around saying you want people to believe in this country that I signed up to die for, then I want to make sure that you're holding that same standard. So not government, not political. Let's not get it confused. I'm saying, have you did anything of service that we can point to say he is a good leader? Like Chris, and I'm not even a fan of Chris Christie, but he was the student council president in high school. So have you done anything of service besides yourself that has not benefited yourself? It's just a simple question.
So
what is with this obsession with student council? 8th grade, 9th grade, middle school. What?
The acts of service that I have performed are small, so small that I don't even want to talk about them to boast. But yes, have I volunteered for this country? Yes, I have. I've always been interested in healthcare.
It's okay to talk about the small things.
These are small things, right? But thank you.
No, let's just mention
Bethesda North
So
Hospital.
it's really a no?
No, it's not a no. It's just something I don't like boasting of. I
Well,
volunteer.
we're not boasting. It's an
boasting.
interview.
So
You're
there we go.
boasting on your vision and everything else.
I think
you
one of the
boasted on
things-
the millions of dollars that you made. So let's just throw it out. So in 6th grade, I'll give you an example. I'll help you out.
He hasn't even said anything about millions of dollars. My question is, would they treat Joe Biden the same way that they're treating it? Joe Biden came on this same platform and said, if you're a black person, you have to think, or if you don't vote for him, then you're not black. Joe Biden came on this same show and said something as racist as that, but yet this dude is an Indian dude, 37 years old, millennial, trying to come up with new ideas on how to better the country, and these people are just attacking the guy. Come on, black people, do better.
Miss Harris, Miss Harris was Let me give you an example because maybe you're confused. In the 6th grade, Miss Harris was snatching papers from everybody in the classroom.
Who is this
So
Miss
me
Harris?
as a 10-year-old, I went to the principal and said, I'm tired of Miss Harris snatching papers, and I organized the students around getting Miss Harris to stop snatching papers. Now, there was a consequence to that. I got suspended for 5 days for talking back, and I got in trouble. I got a spanking, and I was on punishment for months and months. But that is a simple way of organizing people. So I want you to kind of boast about it the way you did the millions of dollars and said what you did with the the pharmaceutical companies. What leadership can you point to that you've been able to rally anybody around anything that is us?
Do you know how stupid you sound right now?
That you did not pay anybody to do. I think that's important for the next president of the United States.
Sure. So I've always been drawn to healthcare. That's why I ended up founding companies in that space. When I was in high school, part of what drew me into it was that I was a volunteer at a local hospital. I actually became the leader of that group of volunteers that actually discharged women who had recently given birth. That was it. Nothing big to it.
Did you do anything we can point to stand out?
But I want to say something about that because I say that in the book. If I'm being really honest, why did I do that in high school? A part of the motivation, I'll be just brutally honest with you, was part of the motivation was that's actually what allows you to get into a good college when you graduate.
Right, so it was about you. So it was about self.
That's so real. Like, he's keeping it 100. Like, yo, I did this because I was trying to get into a good school. I love the honesty. How many politicians do you know would come on here and keep it 100 like that? Say, listen, this is what I was doing because I was trying to get into a good school. The majority of politicians will give you some fluffy answer, but it just seems like it doesn't matter what he says. There's a comeback because it doesn't matter what he says. We have an agenda. The agenda is to make this guy look bad. I don't agree with him. This guy's, representing the Republican Party. This guy has ideas that I don't agree with. Like I don't agree with loving America. Wow, the country I live in. I don't agree with family, the idea of family. Wow. I don't agree with the idea of faith. Think about it. It doesn't matter what he says. That's what it seems like.
And I'm admitting that in a way that very few other people do, but I got to be honest about it. That was a big part of why I did it.
Yeah, it was about self, and I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to give it back to the guys. I'm going to be honest about it with you.
Yep.
Leadership is not about self.
I agree with you on that.
What I just heard is that everything is about you, and to be honest with you, this is just a PR campaign, sir, to be honest with you, and I think you're trying to go further to the right because you want the Republicans to accept you as a man of color, and I think the only way you think you can do that is to be so extreme
I appreciate your opinion.
with your positions, and I think you need to do a little bit more work in service. I'll give it back to you guys.
Let me failed the test, because she did ask me a question, and then you guess.
You failed the test. Like, who does she think she is? Like, what's up with this masculine, I'm in charge role? Like, do you know how bad you look? You're making yourself look bad. This is a terrible interview. This is not even an interview. This is I gotcha. I made you look bad type of moment.
I wanted to hear a response, but I think I heard an expression of opinion. So I want to make sure you're all done before I respond to it.
No, just wanted to say that even then, I would still want you to point out, even at the hospital, something that you did that made you stand out on when actually taking a leadership role. But you already answered it. You said you did it because it was a motivation to get in college.
Exactly.
Which means it was
I'm
about
very
you.
honest about that.
Everything has been about you. So as a veteran,
let me tell you something. I appreciate
it's very hard for me to follow leaders that make everything about them. So you might want to work on that because there's a lot of veterans and Republicans. So you might want to work on that talking point and maybe do some volunteering while you're on the campaign trail.
Wow, she's giving him advice on what to do. A guy that's almost a billionaire. A guy that's very successful. A guy that's created 5 FDA-approved medicines that are helping change the world. I'm supposed to listen to you and take advice from you?
I'm going to give it back to Charlamagne and Envy.
Yeah, I want to be respectful. Want to make sure you got everything you wanted to on the table before I respond.
I like this guy.
He's chill. It'll be a lot more.
You guys tell me. I'm the guest on your show. You tell me when I'm good to speak.
Go ahead.
You sure? You sure about that? If we're good.
Yeah, we're sure.
So I think there's a different worldview that we have. And I think the worldview is how one actually makes contributions in a country. I do not believe that there's a separate category of just if you're serving the country and then if you're acting in self-interest, that's somehow sinful or wrong. I reject that vision. To the contrary.
Same here. Think about it. Capitalism. Everything we have is because somebody had an idea. The majority of people want to be successful, so then they create something that's able to help lives all across the world. That's capitalism, right? Capitalism has brought more people out of poverty than any other, system on the planet known to man. And capitalism is really about, I want to make money. It's about capital.
I think capitalism is the best system known to man to lift people up from poverty. I deeply respect and I thank you for your service to this country. I'm grateful for it. I haven't served the country in the way that you have. But I think that the way you get ahead in capitalism, how did I develop a multi-billion-dollar biotech company? It was by developing medicines that save people's lives.
A lot of people say capitalism causes poverty.
Yeah, I disagree with that.
Okay.
I disagree with that. I think that capitalism demands...
Causes poverty as a multi-millionaire sitting on a show who's capitalizing off the audience that's watching the show, right? All this technology while he's typing on a computer, talking into a microphone. Capitalism causes poverty. We gotta think things through before we say certain things, guys. Come on now.
You provide something to someone that helps them more than you're actually charging them for it. That's the only way.
That's a business model, sir. That's not
a business
service.
Model. It's not.
That's not service.
I'm saying it's having an impact on society.
An elected official is service. That's the disconnect.
That's right. So now I'm moving on to there are phases of our lives where we do different things.
Well, you're moving straight all the way up to President of the United States.
I don't view it as a hierarchy. I don't view it as a hierarchy. I don't believe in hierarchies. The hierarchy is the way the bureaucracy works. I don't believe in so we have a difference in opinion.
You also don't believe in service, and that's where we're having a disconnect.
Well, I disagree with you on that. I just disagree with you on that.
I think it's whack that you're proposing to revoke voting rights for 18 to 24-year-olds unless they meet certain qualifications, but you never exercised your rights.
Well, most young people don't, is the whole point. So, Charlamagne, let me ask you a question. Do you think the
largest voter turnouts have been over the last couple of elections?
They still voted at a very low rate, but let me ask you a question. What do you think about high school students being required to pass the civics test? What's your perspective on that?
The one that you proposed?
The one that every immigrant has to pass in order to enter the country. If every high school student has to pass that before they graduate, what's your take on that?
I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Okay, good. Now let me tell you something about the law as it exists today. Men.
So I'm an immigrant. I was born in Kenya, grew up 11 years in Kenya, came here. I believe America is the greatest country known to man. I believe, America is far and beyond better than anywhere else, right? It's not perfect, but it is better. And I know more, as an immigrant, I know more about American history than people who were born here. I know we could do an interview, we could go down there and interview people and ask them what are the three branches of government. A majority of people in America don't know. And so what he's trying to say is like, look, before you can vote, before you have because it's a right to vote, right? It's a privilege to be able to vote. You should at least know what you're voting. You should know the branches of government. You should know why you're voting. That's what he's saying.
In this country, not women, but men are required by law to register with the Selective Service, age 18 to 25. That's the draft. We don't have a draft, but men have to register. If you don't, they put you in prison. At least they can. It's a criminal offense if you don't. My view is I would decriminalize that. I don't like the government telling you what you can and cannot do. That's not the American way. But if you want to enjoy the civic privilege of voting, then I think it is perfectly legitimate to say you have to at least know something about the country or have served that country, one or the other. Absolutely. Now, I think that what do we actually care about, right? What do we can do the personal attack thing. We care about the country. We care about the country.
Voting is the cornerstone of democracy, though.
Voting is the cornerstone of democracy. That's right. And you know, here's the thing that's different is,
sir, excuse me, because this is important. We have to pause it. This is not a personal attack.
That's okay.
This is you, and I know that as a Republican, you are certainly not soft. So this is not a personal attack.
Yeah.
This is definitely a personal attack. I think she had an agenda, and she's executing that agenda. Whatever was on that agenda, she's executing that.
This is about asking about your background and how it correlates, how it's relevant to saying you're going to serve this country, because president is actually.
So I have been an open book in the last 3 years.
Yeah, I know,
Absolutely.
and I'm going page by page.
And I'm saying that I have not.
I'm gonna let you finish,
Yep.
but I want to be clear: it's not an attack.
Okay.
Because you've been an open book, but that doesn't mean I have to like what's on the page.
That's fair
But
enough.
it's not an attack. I'm just reading the book.
Yep.
And so when I hear somebody say you need to get to either pass this test or do some type of service to the country, and I spend hours looking. You were in the Phi Beta Kappa. Did you have a leadership role in college, the honor roll? When somebody sets service as the standard and they've done no service except to themselves, that's a fair question. It's a question, and you.
So I've been on. Look, I was
Not
on
an attack.
I was on high school student council. Yes, absolutely.
Were you a leader? Were you a leader?
I was a vice president of my high school student council. Absolutely, I was a president of the.
You ready to run for president? You ready to run for president now, according to her qualification of what it takes to be a president. You ready to run?
Honor Society. I can go down the list. It's just that
That's
these
what
are
I
not-
was asking you to do. Go down the
Absolutely.
list. But
So
proceed.
I was a president of the National Honor Society. I was the vice president of my student council. I was a lead amongst the volunteers at the hospital where I served growing up. I was actually a leader in volunteer research over the summers. From my senior
But
year.
all of that, but you already admitted all of that was to get into college.
Not
But
all
go
of it,
ahead.
but I am admitting it. I think that
I know
it's
that's
important.
self-service, though. I just do
A
you
lot of
understand the
that-
difference
a
between
lot of-
self-service?
The majority of what we do in life is for self. We are selfishly. So, for example, if you go out and you do something for other people, yeah, you're doing it for them, but then also you're doing it for yourself. You're doing it for yourself because it makes you feel good. It makes you a better human being, right? We have these ideas of what helping other people is doing. It's not just about service. So you're trying to tell me all politicians that run for president are just doing it for service? Absolutely not. That is a huge part of it. However, I believe a large majority of that is because they want to be in power. A large majority of that is because they want to influence what's going on around the world. A large majority of that is because they want to be looked at as successful. What is wrong with that?
And I think the reality is, and I think we just all have to be more honest. When many high school students are serving today, not all of them, but I think let's smoke it out. I don't like that structure where we actually
No,
mix
and I don't like the
service with
structure.
self-interest.
And I don't like the structure of somebody saying somebody need to give service as a veteran. I don't like the structure of somebody
That's
going
fair.
to the
We can
highest
disagree.
office of the land and have not served anybody at any time unless it was self-serving. So this is where we just have two different ideologies. And I know your
here's
goal
my
is to come here
perspective.
and get into it.
Here's
Yeah,
my
I know.
perspective.
That's why we got
Let me
different
If they the
perspectives.
two guys, you got to leave in 5 minutes. I know.
I'll let them wrap
Yeah.
up.
Let me just say one thing: is you don't. Here's my vision of the run for presidency, and this is why I say I'm an open book. Is my job is to make sure people in this country know who I am and what I stand for. And I think that very few politicians on either party actually get that job done.
That's true.
So what I say is I'm an open book about who I am and what I stand for. Whether the people of this country want to vote for me, that's their question, not mine. That's their job to determine, not mine. And you're free not to vote for me. I expect you won't, and that's okay. But I'm doing my job in the 3 books I've written over the last year, in the conversation I'm having with you guys, being far more honest than any politician that I know in the last 10 years in this country. And I think when I say we want to fix corruption, you don't know what the first step is? The first step is actually people being honest. So you guys know me. You know what I stand for. I haven't hit back on that. Whether the people in this country want to vote for it, that's their choice.
Do you want to unite the country?
I do want to unite the country.
So why is like one of your marquee campaign proposals making sure black people can no longer benefit from affirmative action?
See, here's the thing. It's actually been a disastrous experiment over the last 60 years.
Yeah, I think for me, the way I look at it as an immigrant, I don't want things that I accomplish to be based just off of the race of my skin. I don't want, think about that. Like, oh, we have a quota to meet. Listen, you weren't good enough to get in, but because of the color of your skin, we're going to keep some of these people who deserve to be in, and we're going to actually put you in because you're black. I think that's a slap in the face. I think that's real injustice. I think you're not doing that person any service. But the people who do qualify, the black people who actually deserve to be in those schools, those are the people that I believe should be in those schools.
I've seen the impact that it's had. Unlike a lot of other executives, I've had senior executives in my company who happen to be black, senior executives in my campaign who happen to be black. I actually went to a majority or close to majority black school 1st through 8th grade. There isn't a single one of those black kids or black colleagues that could not have achieved everything I have in my life. I firmly believe that to be true. And I have seen the unfair discrimination behind closed doors, the things that people will say behind closed doors, about somebody who would have had that position anyway, but was unfairly tarred with the taint of saying they got it because of a race-based quota system. I think that's unjust to everyone across the board. And I think the right way to do this is actually ensure equality of opportunity, educational access at an early age, which, by the way, we don't have in this country, starting at an actual young age. How about doing that in a way that's agnostic to race? That way we prevent seeing one another on...
100%. Because, I mean, how come we... So, for example, like, they have quotas to where they're keeping... The numbers are lower for Asians, because the largest, like, for example, Harvard, the largest majority of people that attend Harvard obviously are, white people. But then you got Asians, right? A huge percentage of them go to Harvard. So I think I've heard this recently where to be able to get more black people in, because we got to get the quota up, we're going to keep these Asian kids who deserve to be here. We're going to actually... Some of them that deserve to be here are not going to be able to come because we got to get the numbers up to hit the quota of the amount of black people we need in this school. I think that's an injustice to all people. That's an injustice to the black people. That's an injustice to the Asian people, white people. I think that's injustice in itself. That's how I look at it.
It's of a color of our skin, but we actually solve the real inequalities that we have when it starts with inequality of opportunity, starting with education. So my view is, I think my approach is actually going to be more successful in lifting up more black Americans than have been the Lyndon Johnson approach of actually using race-based quota systems.
So the Supreme Court does rule on affirmative action, and they do ban it. Who do you feel it benefits versus who it hurts?
I think that it helps everyone if they end race-based affirmative action in college admissions. I think it will literally help everyone in different ways because it restores merit in the United States. Are we perfect in ensuring equality of opportunity? No, we're not. The fact that kids are trapped by the zip code in which they're born, determining where they go to school, is a problem, which is why I favor universal school choice in this country, which has actually done more to help black Americans than has any affirmative action program.
What's your thoughts on people saying that you got Don Lemon fired?
The real estate market is shifting. We all know that. That's not news. But what it...
I think that the New York Times reported that. I had an open debate with Don Lemon. What CNN wanted to do with that is their choice. My view is, though, we need to start saying in public the things that people are otherwise saying in private. There's a gap right now in the country. Let's admit it. Democrat, Republican, it doesn't matter.
I've got to give it up to him, though. He's pretty calm. He's not rattled. He's pretty confident. He speaks well-spoken. All in all, y'all, I mean, you watched it, you saw the video, you let me know what you think. You let me know what your reaction is just to watching that. To me, obviously, could definitely do a lot better, right? Do a better interview, ask better questions. But I think he handled himself well, man. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments.